that's the idea, is that we kind of seek this approval over authenticity, because it's the approval means that we're inside the circle as opposed to outside the circle. Yeah. And authenticity is one of the scariest things I feel that so many of us can do, because it's saying, regardless of how people respond to me, I'm just going to show up as myself. Yeah. Man, and that bit around you being careful as well is interesting. Yeah, like I feel that a lot, because it's like, actually, that's me, like maybe, coming from a beautiful place. And also, like, when I'm careful, it's also making myself slightly smaller. You know, do you know what I mean? And you're a larger stature, like, man than I am as well. You know, so you have a presence. And I love it. Best hugs ever, dude. Oh man. But I feel like that bit is like care. The care is around approval of not upsetting anyone, when really the greatest contribution maybe we can make is just being more of ourselves. Because when we do that, we're not clenching, we're not competing, we're just serving and contributing.
Oh man, that's it right there. When you said that, the careful part is, oh man. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Happy New Year to our first episode of 2022. We are excited to introduce Louka Parry. Louka comes to this episode from Australia, from Melbourne. So some of us pronounce it like Melbourne, but it's Melbourne, right? Melbourne, Australia. And not only is it a really incredible story to figure out how I met Louka, one thing I'm really excited about is this conversation had me at points speechless. Like, he was dropping some nuggets about authenticity, about connection, that you'll hear it. Like, I don't even know how to reply because it was so meaningful. My first trip to Australia, I was invited to on two different platforms, you can say. I was invited by Brandon Cliff from the Mankind Project to go to a screening of The Mask You Live In, and to meet and do a presentation while I was there to the folks that were going to be in the audience. And then that happened to be that same week that I was going to be in the Gold Coast doing the screening for the documentary. There was the EduChange conference happening in Melbourne. So I flew into the Gold Coast, did the screening for the documentary, and then I went down to Melbourne for this EduChange conference. I mean, this was an amazing conference. I don't even know the name of the building that it was in, but it was a amazing, beautiful building, and educators from all over Australia and even around the world, because I happened to be there with some other educators from the U.S. The night that we did the screening in Melbourne for the EduChange conference, Louka was hosting. He was the host. And so I get to the screening of the documentary, and that conversation, that night, is when this connection began. And it's been a beautiful journey ever since. I want to say that was 2018. And so excited to be in this conversation with Louka. Louka, we don't talk about the resume of our host, but as a fellow educator, he was a principal at 27 years old, teacher of the year in Australia, like lots of accomplishments in education. But now he gets to work on the outside, not only working with educators, with companies, with organizations. And I'm really excited about this conversation, as he was in transition and getting back home. We had a really good talk about not only the work that he's doing, but about how he has been able to show up in his life and his work around these masks. And authenticity is probably a key word from this episode. So I'm really excited for you to hear this episode. If you haven't yet made a mask, this million mask movement, we're really excited about for 2022. And we hope that if you haven't made one yet, you will make one. You can go to 100kmasks.com and make a mask anonymously. Louka and I are going to share ours publicly, but you can make one and decide who you're willing to let hear about it and see it. And we definitely invite you to share it with somebody who you think can benefit, and share this episode with somebody who you believe can benefit from the words that you're going to hear. As we're going to kick off 2022, we're going to be talking to men from around the world. There's many countries we've not talked to men from yet. And if you know someone who you think we should talk to, please let us know. Maybe you don't know them. Maybe it's somebody who you've heard of and you think we should reach out to them. Let us know. And we look forward to even more conversations in this year with men of all ages around the masks that we feel sometimes forced to wear. And this year, for sure, I will tell you one thing you're gonna see this year. We're gonna have our first episode in Spanish. It may be a hybrid of English and Spanish, and we haven't figured that out yet. But we have some guests from Latin America, and I want them to be able to communicate in there as most comfortably for them. And because I speak Spanish, I'm excited about that. And so stay tuned. We don't know how we're going to necessarily translate those episodes yet, but we hope that you will tell somebody about it. And we're excited about what's to come in 2022. We hope you're having a great start to the new year. And we thank you for being a part of the show. I'm so glad to have not only Louka on the show, but I'm so glad to see him again. Louka and I met in Australia. Whenever Forward was invited to present at the EduChange conference back in 2018. What an amazing experience. My first time in Australia, but not only that, just being on this world stage of a platform of being able to share the work we're doing around masks. I'm so glad to see you, Louka. Welcome to the show.
Ashanti, brother, it's fantastic to see you again, man. And yeah, it's been a beautiful journey since we were really lucky to collide with each other.
Man, it went fast. I feel like it was just a little while ago, but 2018, I mean, I guess everything feels a long time ago now, right? Anything older than 2019 feels like forever, right? Man, well, like, how about you tell folks who you are? Share with us, just share with folks who you are and what you want them to know about you as we're gonna jump into these masks and yeah, I'd love you to be able to tell folks about yourself.
Yeah, man. First of all, it's great to be chatting with you. I'm really honored to be part of this conversation. And I've actually learned a lot from you, from the whole concept of the mask and taking it off and kind of exploring healthy masculinity. It's been a really big journey for me. Since I first kind of began this journey, who am I? I'm the first in my family to be born in Australia. My mum is actually from northern Greece and my dad is from Wales with some Irish heritage as well. So I'm kind of Hellenic Celt, right? That's my ancestry. And yeah, I spent a lot of my kind of early years growing up in Adelaide, which is a beautiful city of 1.3 million people in South Australia. Kind of an inner city experience, middle class. Dad's a psychiatrist, my mom's a teacher. And so kind of had all those influences. One of the big things for me is that education was it was really celebrated. My Yaya Marika, my Greek grandmother, and Papu Kuzma, my Greek grandfather, they were around for most of my upbringing, but they had kind of grown up in the village, and Yaya had gone to school for 2 years. Primary school, she loved it. And then she, they were so poor that she went back and worked on the farm, on the tobacco farm. And so all I had to do, Ashanti, was show up and get a certificate for being present. And it was celebrated. I was like, wow, that went on the wall, certificate of participation, grade 3, whatever it was. So early on, I really had this kind of connection to education and development and growth and learning. And, when I was 16, my Greek grandfather had a heart attack and died. Of course, those things are sudden. And it was the first time that as a young man, I really considered death and life, frankly, my connection to who I am. I thought of myself as an Aussie, as an Australian. I didn't have any real connection to my Greek, Welsh, Irish heritage at all. And that kind of opened a door for me and I stepped through it. And I've been walking and stepping through doors ever since, I guess. So after, 18, lived in Europe for a year and a half, moved to Dublin, North County, Dublin, grew up in spent 6 months in a beautiful suburb there. and I had my kind of curly hair, kind of somewhat, theatrical. I love drama and musical theater, and love athletics as well. And I was playing sport out there, but I was the only one that wasn't a skinhead, and so that was a real interesting moment for me in terms of identity as well. I was like, well, okay, who am I really? So the rite of passage. It was the separation from family and going over and kind of exploring who I might be as a man. And so I spent another year traveling around Europe, as sometimes we used to do in the old days, Ashanti. And then returned back to Australia and decided to changed out of a business degree, into an education degree, because I realized that education is this great leveler. It's the thing that enables us to step into our authentic selfhood when it's done well and when it comes from a place of love. And so that's been my journey. I spent 6 years as a teacher and a school principal in public schools in South Australia. Most of that was in a First Nations context, very remote, like kind of might be called a reservation in the United States. And I was the only white guy kind of on the football team for a few years. And so again, man, speaking to you, a beautiful man of color, like for me, it was my first understanding of whiteness. And that for me, again, was just a deep moment of, okay, interesting. Like that was just another big part of my journey, I think, is understanding who I am, where I come from, and how I need to show up if I want to be part of creating a better world. So 6 years working in schools, young school principal. That was also a bit of a baptism by fire. And then, I moved over and joined, a startup, a great team, young team, talking about innovation and change, good education change makers. And that's where we first met at one of the conferences that we put together. And after 4 years of, a really wonderful journey, I kind of felt called to step away from that. I was burnt out as well, separated with my partner that was in Adelaide. I was in Melbourne, doing long distance, and kind of just set off and started following my own curiosity and, where might that take me? And so that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, really, is, okay, well, what might be my greatest contribution? What's my highest calling? And what's my highest self, to be frank, as well? So a lot of that's inner work as well as outer work. I've done lots of study at universities, got a couple of postgraduate degrees. A lot of it's about knowledge acquisition. And where I'm at right now is, okay, how do you couple that with presence and maybe even wisdom development, right? Things that I've learned from First Nations around the world, but particularly here in Australia. So now I run a portfolio life, a bit like yourself, a non-profit called Karanga, which is the Alliance for Social Emotional Learning and Life Skills. And so we're really interested in connecting the champions of that world. You are one of them, of course, to try to elevate the other parts that make us human in our social systems, our education systems. I run a consulting company called The Learning Future. I'm really obsessed with, okay, how do we visit the future, return to the present, and then powerfully act? And a lot of that's around education and leadership in particular, but also kind of how do we change companies and company cultures? Yeah, and then also ecology. This is a bloody long introduction, by the way. But,
Hey, do it.
Yeah, and, like maybe it's not about us. It's about the biocollective. It's about the environment of which we are part, When we say we've lost connection from nature, we forget that we are nature. And that means we've lost connection from ourselves. And so a lot of that is, how do we kind of imbue this idea of regeneration into the center of all of our economies, societies? So that's kind of the journey I've been on.
That's exciting, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that we've done in this podcast is the idea is that because it becomes a conversation that I want to read a bio of just like I want a man to share what things that are either right now present, the things that are like a part of me that I'm feeling coming forth, but also like, man, imagine, I don't know, I don't think I knew you were a teacher and a principal, and I think of that list of things. Think that's about all I knew, you know?
Yeah,
And I
man.
think that's the amazing, right? It's like, oh, like there's so much more to the story than we could ever be able to get. So thank you for sharing that. And I think what we try to do in these conversations is that how do we give men a space of all ages? Our youngest participant has been 13, right? How do we give that young man a space to be able to say, I was seen today. I got to share
Mm,
what I felt good about sharing. It wasn't like a thing that it was crafted to just to do whatever it needs to do. And so I think today, as we get a chance to make these masks, it's like, yeah, I feel it, and I'm excited about it, and I'm excited that you get a chance and we get a chance to have a deeper conversation. And I remember the last time I when I did the workshop in Australia, I think there were so many people. I know you were like helping a lot, so I don't even know if you were in that session, but that was a beautiful session, and so I'm glad. And you were at the screening, so I first for the first night at the screening, and that was fantastic. That
mm.
was man, that was beautiful, and yeah, just it's an amazing learning experience.
Man, I think yeah, and it was amazing learning experience for me, and I think that's what like who I am at the deepest level is really a curious learner.
Mm,
And man, I taking off the mask documentary and your work, it's become embedded into how I show up and how I articulate things, particularly with men, particularly in the kind of Australian context, which has lots of parallels with other Western contexts around the world. Um, yeah, man, and I wonder, particularly in kind of the status-driven world that sometimes we find ourselves in, what we might call the ego, right? Which is asking the wrong questions to begin with, which is, yeah, Ashanti, tell me what you do. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, prove to me you're worthy, as opposed to tell me who you are. And I just think, like, what's exciting you? What's lighting you up right now? What's the thing that keeps you up at night? Like, those are the deep questions. Like, we do so much small talk, and we should kind of substitute that with big talk or deep talk. Um, yeah, man, that's exactly what you're doing through the way, through I see you as who you are. And from that place, then we get to choose what we do and what we know. And that's flipped for me, I would say, in the last number of years. Before it was about what I needed to know to be enough. Like, I was obsessed with knowledge acquisition. I mean, I speak a bunch of other languages now. I was monolingual at 18, and that's awesome. And I love it. It's like a skill, it's a passion. And also, I've noticed that there was an element of that came from me being a young boy and feeling like a complete failure with language, with spelling, with handwriting. And so the pathology kind of can drive the kind of clench towards, be enough, as opposed to, do the inner work and go to pathos, like talk about story, be held in circle, right, with other men in particular. I do men's work.
that's right.
And then you get to the point where, like, cool, I can just choose from here, from a place of wholeness, you know. Um, yeah. So that's just part of that journey, I think, and I really do appreciate what you're doing. Um, yeah, and how you show up.
I'm excited you just said a word that I'm actually going to come back to. I think you said the word pathos, and I'm going to come back to. I'm going to just write that down. A group of students the other day, I told them to ask some questions. I was like, ask any question. The middle schoolers, I was like, ask any
Mm,
question, something you're curious about, something you think about, you're wondering about. And
yeah,
man, they were asking me all kind of questions about me, and I was like, really? Is that what you're interested in? I wanted some. So they were like, what are you? How old are you? What's your favorite color? I'm like, really? This is I'm thinking you're gonna ask about the world and about
yeah.
like, and they said, what did they say? They said, I forgot why I brought that question up. Something
Well,
I
it's
lost
because,
it.
the deep self questions versus the small talk questions. It's
That's
like,
right. That's right.
what do you know versus who are you? I think is such a powerful
Mhm.
distinction. Like, how do we start with who we are, then what we can do, and then what we know? And that's also the way that we design curricula, I think, the
Yeah.
way we design organizational cultures. How do you
Yeah.
how do you, and you said it before, Ashanti, like, just to feel like I was seen today. It's one of the
Mm,
most, I get goosebumps even conceiving of that. I mean, that's human connection at a deep
yeah.
level, to be
Yeah.
seen and to be
That's right.
heard and to be
There it is.
uplifted and humanized
Yeah.
and everything. And that comes from a place of love, you know. Um,
That's
and
right.
everything else comes from the opposite place, right? Which is fear, which
Man.
is, maybe I'm not enough, Ashanti, so I'm going to project my insecurities onto you and, like,
Mm,
compete with you and try to get into a status thing. And our egos will kind of battle it out, as opposed to just showing up and saying, all right, how do we do beautiful work together
Yeah.
while we're here?
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. That's right. And a group of middle schoolers today was the same way where, I've been in workshops before where you're just like trying to like be in the performance mode of like keeping them all together. And
Yeah.
today I just felt like I'm gonna just how do I just channel just being present
Nice.
and channeling that one young man who I something was calling. He was calling attention, not in a negative way. He was volunteering for everything. He was participating in everything, and he like really took an opportunity to like take off his mask today. And I think he's still stirring in my head as I think about that. Like I just held space for him, like as a
Mm,
facilitator, as a teacher, as an educator, as a friend, right? Just saying, I see you, I see you, I see you, thank you. And even one point having like, have him dial back a minute. Like, I'm gonna have you hold on to that thought right there because I want to hear you, but I want to come back to that, right? And him
yeah.
getting it, him seeing it, feeling it, that it wasn't trying to shut him down, but giving him like, I want you to hold, like, where you're going to go right now. We're not ready for that right now,
Yeah.
but
Nice.
but we are going to be ready for that in about 5 minutes. So hold it. And like him saying, I said, you won't forget, right? He's saying no. And then when
Wow.
he came back with another punch in the emotional solar plexus. And I think that's not only with all of us, right? But you and I now get a chance to do this together, right? But how do we just be like, okay, I'm gonna go where I feel like I can go, knowing that
Yeah.
it's not just you and me having a talk in Australia, right? It's not just that kind of you of us. We're having a talk, but we're also knowing that other people are gonna learn from us and hear from us and experience this too, right? So there's a pieces of that those puzzles kind of play into the conversation. So thank you for being here, and I think as a guest, you get to decide who goes first. So either you share your mask first or I share mine first, but you get to choose.
Wow. Thanks for the choice. Um, of all the choices, I'm like, do you know what? Actually, I'd love to hear yours first, Ashanti. It's
Okay.
been a while since we caught up, so I'd love to hold
I
space for you.
appreciate that. Thank you, man. So I'll share the front and then I'll ask you to share your front and then I'll share the back of mine and then we'll go like that. Okay.
Nice.
All right. So this is one I've been drawing. This is a mask I've been trying to work on lately. This is the picture. Let me see. Get the picture there.
Oh, cool.
And it says
Mm.
serious, careful, and passionate. And I usually write caring on here. I've written caring a lot lately. These are the ones that stood out to me today because I think after today's workshop, I think and I'm not only my big size wise, I'm a big guy, right? But I think when I think I'm serious, like I take this work very serious, right? I take this opportunity
Mm.
serious, and so I think use these three because of what I felt from today's workshop. I was letting the young men see I was serious. I was really careful to how do I, because they're middle school and they're sixth graders, they're young, right? And
Mm.
if I'm too loud or I'm too serious, they could take it. Like I've had middle schoolers hear me the wrong way or take the energy
Yeah.
because I'm and I just learned to be that. But today I was really careful because I felt like I really felt the need to like hold the space because these kids have not been in. If they're sixth graders, they haven't had a full year of school since the fourth grade.
Wow.
That's the
Yeah.
last time they had a full. No, the third grade. Third grade. They haven't had a full year of school since the third grade. So they're what I'm saying? Socially, they're
Yeah.
still elementary kids. They haven't had a lot of practice of like, oh no, you don't talk to people like that. You don't say things like that because they've been in their own house looking at a screen on mute. So a lot of social cues get lost in a year and a half, right?
Mm.
But they were just some beautiful boys in there, and I was really trying to be, and the passion I think comes in really quick. But I think I underlined careful. I don't know why I even underlined it, but I guess I underlined it because I think I was more focused on trying to be really careful because knowing that they're carrying a lot, and when you make a space
Mm.
for people to open up, and young people definitely, my job is to like not hmm, invite them to open up, but in a
Yeah.
way that doesn't hurt them. that doesn't
Yeah.
they go so deep and then they realize, uh-oh, people couldn't handle everything I shared about myself. And so today this is what really resonates. I think I'm careful in lots of ways, in conversation with staff, in conversation with teams, and conversation with clients. Some things that make me frustrated, and I'm like, oh, Shanti, don't say what you think. Don't say what you. And I got good masks, so I just like,
Interesting.
oh, okay. And so I'm always like trying to like how do I say this carefully, because I'm calculating I'm calculating a lot of things as I'm speaking, right? How's my facial expressions? How am I projecting? What my facial? Am I smiling while I'm saying it? Am I saying it calm enough? So I think I I often think about those things. Really, I mean, maybe it's more of a behind the mask, and I'm being careful. But I think I really try and be very careful on how I say. I'm really trying to figure out how to say this, so I say it well, as opposed to feeling like it came out sideways. Right? If I'm saying something to someone that's maybe more challenging or more corrective in words or action. So those are the ones that showed up to me today. Serious, passionate, and careful. Um,
Mm,
yeah, that's the front.
nice. Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing. And I really
Yeah,
feel a
thank
lot of
you.
that as well. Yeah, we'll get to that. That's awesome. Here's mine. Uh,
Okay.
three bits. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Not really.
There you go.
Kind
You
of.
got the angle. That angle. There's a good
Got
angle.
the
Let me see.
angle. So
Let me see.
confidence,
Yep.
warmth, intelligence.
Yeah.
So the idea of being confident, being warm, and being intelligent is
Awesome.
it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite masks because particularly the piece around intelligence. Yeah, I've what I've discovered on this journey, Ashanti, is that at some point as a young boy and as a teenager,
Mm.
I thought, okay, to be really valuable, you got to know a lot, and you got to be
Mm.
someone that can kind of step in with knowledge when it's required, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah, that piece, you know, um, around just being known as, oh yeah, Louka knows a lot, like that kind of mask. I can often step forward and like turn, like it's kind of step into teacher mode, right? Which is, oh, let me share knowledge here, and even when it's not required or asked for, it's like, oh, but here's a really fun fact, And I was like, dude, what are you doing? It's interesting, but not totally relevant. But that my confidence, yeah, man, that's how I kind of walk in, and the idea of performing as well. Like I have a drama background, and so
Mm.
like literally the dramatic arts is about wearing different masks, embodying
Yeah.
sometimes in the Stanislavski method, like a character, and you literally put on a different mask and idiosyncrasies and mannerisms and become somebody else. I mean,
Mm.
acting so powerfully a study of the human condition, I think. Um, so yeah, that and warmth.
Say the name of that process again. Was the name of the process you said that it was about to putting on the mask?
Oh,
Stanislavski?
the Stanislavski method, which is called
Stanislavski.
method acting, which is where you
Okay.
embody a character wholly and completely. Like
Mm.
Heath Ledger in The Joker.
Okay.
No one
Okay.
knows he's that thing. I mean, it's kind of there was a method in the 20th century, in
Yeah.
particular, early 20th century. So yeah, so that kind of
Mm.
bit for me is like confident intelligence and warmth. Like that is my natural disposition. All these things are, and sometimes what I've done with this mask on in the past is kind of gone a bit too much towards toxic positivity, I would even say,
Mm.
which is say, I'm going to be warm even though like I'm really sad. I'm just going to be warm because people don't like me when I'm sad, or being
Mm.
sad is like vulnerable. And yeah, so that's the front of my mask for today. It's morning for me. So I haven't had, you know, um, I haven't worn much of it, but like as a general principle, like I can really feel the times that I kind of turn that on and become a bit performative. And often if I'm facilitating as you also do, like a big room of teachers or principals, like it would be confident, warm, and intelligent. Would just be
Yeah.
like a thing I could just so easily put on and just run a whole day and then kind of get to the end of and kind of go, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful, and it's really interesting when you talked about the toxic positivity. I want to think about that. I want to think about this method acting thing where it's. I wonder for people who in their workshops have to stay energetically positive the whole time, if they
Hmm.
actually love it and it feels really good. I know for me, because I'm going to tell some hard things, I get to bounce back and forth, right? And I get to
Right.
bounce back between. Anybody ever had a hard day? Man, like I get to like what I don't have a memory, I don't have a script, so I'm talking about stuff
Yeah.
that I'm either watching kind of in the body language, but I'm also talking about stuff that I've either experienced before, but I'm going from the man. Anybody felt like they had some good people in their life before? Oh man, yeah, me too. And then anybody felt like they had somebody who betrayed their trust before? Man, like,
Yeah.
and to be able to have the weave of the two, right? To be able to,
Hmm.
and sometimes I'm going to share a tough story because I'm really trying to get them to take off the mat. I think it's. I wonder. Interesting. Because I'm trying to get them to take off the mask. Like, I think positivity is great, and I told them today, or I tell them in the usually workshop, I say, "What I want you to have a wide range of emotions that you can navigate through." And I think it's
Nice.
kind of like that method acting, right?
Yeah.
Where can you maybe even we should do that in one of our workshops. We should give people a chance to like, can somebody show me what it looks like to be angry? And maybe even
Exactly.
have them do it. Like you gave me an idea for trying something next time, but I'll come back to this because thank you for sharing that, and it actually gave me some really good ideas. Okay, thank you,
Man, my
brother.
pleasure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right. We got you. Ideas are flowing. The ideas are flowing right now. Okay, we're going to the back. Maybe I'm trying to stall time because I want to talk about the back right now. But here we go. It's coming. Here we go. All right. So the back. Here we go. It says
Mm.
worry, people pleaser. I wrote shadow right there, and then I wrote my brother's mental health. And
Mm.
so the one that's really present, I think, is, well, lots of them are present. Like my brother's mental health is, I feel like he's just deteriorating a little. My brother has schizophrenia. He has
Right.
paranoid schizophrenia, and I'm the oldest, and then it's my sister, then my brother. So it's my first brother. And yeah, he's going through it right now. He's living in a place, and I need to, you know, I've been trying to help with his placement because he got released from one of his other facilities that was a fairly decent facility. It was in a kind of a rough kind of a part of Oakland, but it was fairly decent inside. And now he's in a
Yeah.
rougher part of Oakland, and it's not decent inside. So it's kind of like he's
Right.
feeling stressed, and when he feels stressed, it's coming my way. It's coming to the family, right? He's gonna bring it to your doorstep, whether it's 3 in the morning or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
whenever he needs to bring it. Um, and I dance between these two worlds of like, dude, what I told you I'm gonna be showing up at my house at 3 in the morning. And then the part of me is like, you must really be struggling to be showing up at my house at 3 in the morning.
Mm.
But also like, how do you train a 30+ year old, right? He is not like I mean, he doesn't know where else to go, I guess, right? I mean, where else do you go? Um, except home or to family, right? And to be upset and irritated, but also figuring out which parts can he actually handle, which parts are part of the schizophrenia, which parts are. I mean, there's no cure for schizophrenia. I mean, they're gonna medicate you. They're gonna give you some stuff. He can name off all the stuff he's taken,
Mm.
but what happened when it doesn't work anymore? What happened when it doesn't? What happened when you were trying to explain to people that it's not working anymore, and the people don't get it because they thought?
Yeah.
And so I think I worry about that a lot, and I worry about some of these programs out there that are supposed to help people. There's a lot of homeless in Oakland, and a lot of a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people living on the streets are have mental health issues, and some of them don't have anybody who's advocating for them. I mean, my brother has people who advocate for him, and it's even hard for me, who I think I have a lot of my wellness connected, that I'm dealing with this system, and I'm like, this is jacked up. Like
Mm,
you put him from one facility to a worse facility. He's telling you that it's worse, and you're telling me that you got to wait. The people who live there who are fine living there, great. He's not fine, So now it's all the dance of like. Then I have to like be kind to the people on the phone, even though deep down they're being. Better be careful who's listening to this audio. They're being ridiculous in their thinking, right? Because sometimes I want to be like, what? He
mm,
When a person with a mental health issue is telling you that the place they're living is stressing them out, and you tell them, oh, well, just hang in there.
yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to not know that your place you're living is stressing you out, but to know it and be like asking for people who are supposed to fix it. So I worry about that, and that's a worry. That's um, and I think that that's part of me is like, um, feeling that pressure to like try and say and support him, even though I'm supposed to I'm taking a vacation. I'm taking a vacation finally coming up, and I sometime over Thanksgiving I was going to go see my sister and my nephews in L.A. My brother came to my house 2 days before I was going to fly out of town, just like spinning,
Right.
and I couldn't leave. I was like, no one else is in town. Everyone is down where my sister is. What's going to happen if no one's here for him? And so I canceled my own trip. And so that part of people pleasing, like, it's family, right? You shouldn't be
Mm,
considered a people pleaser because you're going to help family. No, but that's why I did it. I, I, I didn't do it for a show. I didn't do it to prove anything to anyone. I didn't do it to put on a show for anyone. I did it because I wanted to please him. I wanted to, I wanted to help, but also if there was nothing else in the way, I would have been in LA.
mm,
And so sometimes those things are the ones that I don't talk much about, but I process, right? And I process, right? And then I think the last thing I'll talk about around the people pleaser piece is I've been the worry. I had a situation, like a racist situation, happen in a parking lot at a grocery store a couple of months ago,
oh man.
and
Sorry about that.
I recorded it. And I think what I've been doing is I think internally I've been telling a few people about it. I showed it a couple of times. I've not posted it anywhere, and I think I've been like trying not to. It's probably in the connection to the people pleasing. Like I don't want to.
Mm,
Am I looking for attention to share it? Am I like what's the purpose behind it? And I think I've been looking for permission to share it. But what I do know is that it's not going away. My thought
yeah.
about what's happening in our own communities, and I finding myself like, what am I trying to do? Who am I protecting from this showing this, right? Maybe I'm protecting from attention that I don't want to get, unnecessary attention. Maybe I'm protecting from other, I don't know, but I think as I think about it, I'm like, every day I think about this video, I'm like, are you going to share it or not? Are you going to share it or not? And why am I keep thinking about it? Because it was painful. The pain of it is not going away. Every time is ignoring it going to help? Is keeping it just locked in my phone, just like pretending like it didn't happen to me? Is it going to help? It's not making it better. It's been several months. I haven't forgotten about it. So anyway, those are the things that I think are on the back of my mask today. So
Mm.
I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashanti.
Yeah, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I really feel you as well. Like, yeah, and how these things that happen to us, if we're called from family or if someone projects their own fear onto you, onto us, like it's interesting about how we hold on to them
Yeah.
and how we let them go. And I think that's what I've been spending a lot of time with is how do I allow myself to let go of something that if I continually recall takes me to a place of suffering. It's kind of
Mhm.
non-attachment work in some ways. Like maybe it's a healing journey. I don't
Yeah.
know. Deepest level. Back of my mask, dude, is like to get the angle going. Uncertain, alone, different. And so I've kind of gone for, I would say, like, yeah, more general states across my life. particular for the last few years, like there's been, hell, for all of us, been a lot of uncertainty. It's interesting to know. I want to share this. Like I was told by someone I really care about recently that why am I so certain in all parts of my life except relationships? And I was like, is that how you experience me? Was kind of my response. I was like, really? Yeah. So that's interesting because that to me showed me part of the mask I kind of hadn't seen yet, which is that, oh yeah, I show up as this confident, capable human being a lot of the time. And people experience that, but actually underneath it's like, I don't have a plan. I don't really have a plan, like of where I'm going to live, who I'm going to be, who I'm going to be with, these kinds of big questions. So yeah, that uncertainty, I would love to let more people in to see. And I think I'm down that path a little bit since discovering that, which is to say, like, the part of me that wants to be the intelligent, confident guy, instead I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. But here's a question we could ask together. And this is kind of manifesting in all the work that I do now as well. It's like, actually, what's the mental model? What's the bit that we're not seeing here? Like, how do we kind of transform the way we see the world? Because, I really do believe that we see the world as not as it is, but as we are. And so that's how do you kind of get to the point where it's really clean and clear? So I mean, the principle that I kind of try to bring into my life is have clarity, but not certainty. That's what I'm trying to do now, is be clear about my needs, about my actions, but don't kind of clench towards this. It has to be this way, this certainty, this perfectionist curse, that I've done a lot of work undoing, Ashanti, over the years. The bit around, loneliness as well is interesting. And I think it's linked to the other one, which is difference or different. It's funny, like as a kid, I was kind of quite eccentric and a real dreamer. And I've had, there's these real impactful moments that happened as a young boy, in primary school and then into high school, where I just felt like I was odd. Like, and what I learned in those moments of kind of sharing, like, the kind of creative part of me or something else, right? Like a connection that I hadn't seen, is that it was shown to me that was not the safe thing to do. It was not the right thing to do. And so I kind of, in some ways, that's where to your point, that's where my people pleasing comes from, I feel, which is the seek approval, because authenticity at its depth is not safe. So yeah, that's that piece. And again, I think it's feeling through just be myself all the way, which is, really powerful to feel through.
You said seek approval because authenticity is not safe.
Yeah, that's right. And
that's powerful, brother.
Yeah, well, it's a piece of work that Dr. Anna Rubinstein's spoken about before. He runs the Rite of Passage Institute here in Australia. Lots of beautiful focus on kind of, how do you do that better, and men's circles. And that's the idea, is that we kind of seek this approval over authenticity, because it's the approval means that we're inside the circle as opposed to outside the circle. Yeah. And authenticity is one of the scariest things I feel that so many of us can do, because it's saying, regardless of how people respond to me, I'm just going to show up as myself.
Yeah.
Man, and that bit around you being careful as well is interesting. Yeah, like I feel that a lot, because it's like, actually, that's me, like maybe, coming from a beautiful place. And also, like, when I'm careful, it's also making myself slightly smaller. Do you know what I mean? And you're a larger stature, like, man than I am as well, so you have a presence. And I love it. Best hugs ever, dude.
Oh man.
But I feel like that bit is like care. The care is around approval and not upsetting anyone, when really the greatest contribution maybe we can make is just being more of ourselves. Because when we do that, we're not clenching. We're not competing. We're just serving and contributing.
Oh man, that's it right there. When you said that, the careful part is, oh man, oh man, oh man. And as leaders, educational leaders, as people who are in education, who have opinions, who have thoughts, who have ideas, who are creative. Sometimes when you go in to work with other educators,
Mm.
like I think when you said try and play small, right? And most times it's because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, oh man. Like I've seen these educators who I love educators. So
Yeah.
and I was an educator. So when I tell people, when I talk bad about educators, don't take it personal. I first of all love them. My mom is an educator. I'm an educator, and so
So
I'm
am
a
I.
part of the team as well. But I also I feel like I have the right to be critical. And when I'm being critical is out of the service of trying to make it better in the future, you know? And I think, I mean, I've seen schools do some things that you just see, you like, are you really want to wait till we see a problem? It's December 1st. Yes, everybody's tired, of course, but we see a problem happening with our students. We're going to wait till January. You're really going to like wait 3 more weeks of December, send kids home to their wherever homes they're going to for 2 weeks, and then bring them back in January and then work on the thing that we've already noticed. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not claiming that it's easy to take time out of whatever schedules you have to do some deep work with kids. But also, I'm like, the waiting game I don't often see how that helps. And I think sometimes I'm just like, and then, but also because I'm an outsider, right? I'm coming in. I'm having to be careful how I push, right? Right, because there's money involved, right? I'm a salesperson on this context, even though I don't want to see it that way. If we don't get you to bring us in to do the work, we don't have revenue to do the work, right? So I'm clear about that. And so how do you speak from a place where I speak just really authentically and clear and trust that you can handle it? And then you're not going to be like, we're not bringing them in here. How dare he speak to us that way, right? When you see some places that you're like, no one is speaking up because everyone's afraid, and maybe I feel that way. I feel like a chicken sometimes. I feel like a chicken sometimes is speaking out against injustices that I see in the world because I don't want to make people mad. I don't want to make potential, not even current donors. The donors who are donating, they're the people who already know that we mean we have the best intentions. But potential donors, I'm trying to not make mad, so I don't. So sometimes I hold back speaking some of my truth, and I think that's part of this work. It's this next phase. It's my 2022 work. Is how long are you going to play small, Ashanti? You're not promised tomorrow. You're not promised tomorrow. Tomorrow is, we hope we can hope for it, but it's not promised. So how much you going to leave on the table when you leave this place, right? Like there, you know. And I think I heard this recently from Les Brown, where he talked about, you know, that he talks about this vision of being done with your life, and the dreams that were left behind are just looking at you saying, man, we were waiting for you to do, we were waiting for you, right? Just see those dreams that you were like, I held back because I was afraid of like making somebody mad. I was afraid of pushing somebody's buttons. And I think that is where I'm working towards in this next year. This is my end of year reflection. I've already started the reflection, but how much more bold can I be?
Yeah.
In 2022 to know that if I'm coming from the best intentions, I just need to keep going forward. And I need to trust that those people who are meant to hear it will hear it, and those people who are not are not. And as opposed to holding it back from everybody because I'm afraid of the ones who are gonna feel a little grumbly because of it, or feel activated because of it, you know?
Oh man, how many of your dreams are gonna be waiting for you, saying, "Hey, where were you?" See, that's a beautiful piece. I mean, there's that joke, you know, like on your tombstone, just to go straight to that, like,
Yeah.
Louka Parry died potential intact. Like that's not the way that I wanted to go. It's really, and I think you say it's like bold, like being bold. And by being bold, I think we mean being more of ourselves. It's not about having to kind of go into the hustle culture and kind of get into the hyper toxic, frankly masculine space of like, gotta grind it out. You gotta stretch. You gotta suffer through the pain. Like the Goggins kind of approach. I'm not called to that at all. I don't think it's the right way. I actually think it's about self-forgiveness, self-compassion. And if you do that enough and you come from that beautiful place, you know your intentions. You're completely clear with the change you're trying to make in the world. And if other people can't hold you in that, that's actually not your responsibility anymore, because you're on the court. You're trying to make it better for the people we're trying to help. I mean, it's the whole beautiful thing about being an educator is it's about human growth and development. And so it's something that I think is just really beautiful for us to continue to think about.
I'm sorry.
Say the last thing you were saying. Hey, I don't know if this is going to make it in the clip or not. We're going to pretend like it didn't happen, but I think we're going to let it happen. We have
Goodbye.
I think we come down to the end, but you were saying something right before I lost you last time. You were talking about the grinding and the pressure and the like, and then you said something about being completely clear, and then that's when we missed that last part. Do you remember what you were saying about grinding and being completely clear?
Well, I think, man, it's like the question is, who do we choose to be? I think is the question. It's not what are we going to learn? What are we going? What skill sets do we need to develop? Like those are also questions, but they're subsequent to the first, which is who do we choose to be, and therefore who do we become? And for me, I think you can look around the world, and a lot of it is about clenching and kind of in some ways like really striving, but in an unhealthy way. And I feel like some of it really just comes from this idea of worthiness. I mean, how much do we really need to experience true fulfillment and happiness? Like actually, like what matters most of all? Like belonging, right? Connectedness, like ability to contribute, to have agency over one's life. That's the real things, right? And we need resources to be able to do that well, and we should distribute them in a proper way as part of a society and an economy and a government. But actually, like, there's also things that we can do. And so that I think is the bit. It's like, how do we enable ourselves? How do we pull, not push? How do we create conditions under which things emerge? And I really feel, as educators in particular, like as men, as human beings, anybody, it's who do we choose to be? What do we need to do? And what might we find out? And enjoy that journey. And as you said, like, not play small. Actually be a force of nature and live your life like a blazing torch rather than a brief candle, right? As the George Bernard Shaw quote that I'm paraphrasing goes. It's just that to me really sums it up. It's like, how do I get out of my own way? How do we get out of our own way? And from that place, really contribute structured love, which is what you do, brother. It's what great educators do. It's what great parents do. They give structured love. So it's not just about the love. It's about a structure which gives us rigor to be able to, achieve, evolve, learn. Yeah, man, that's kind of the journey I'm on. And I tell you what, this year for all of us with COVID and everything else, there's been a lot of, inward orientation as well as outwards orientation. And I think it's about understanding the connection between those two things. How we feel about ourselves will absolutely influence how we behave and how people experience us. So
true. I love that analogy of a blazing torch as opposed to a burning candle. Like, am I going after it? Am I in the service of the beautiful part of the work, not in I'm grinding myself to the ground, like into little pieces, but I'm like pushing forward in the mission of clearing out the stuff that doesn't need to be there, but also moving towards the goal, So you have thank you, brother. First of all, I want to say, so glad that we got to be in this conversation. I think, I tell everyone in these conversations that, the conversation will do what it's supposed to do. And all the little interruptions are like, if we couldn't get back to it, it was clear that it was done. But I think the little things that happen in the moment are like, but this is a real conversation. So a moment of pause doesn't make the conversation go away, because it wasn't like dependent on any script. It wasn't dependent on any. It was just two people connecting, having real conversation. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be. And so, thank you for being a part of this conversation today. So good to see you again. So good to see the sun shining. I have no sun right where I'm at, so good to see the sun shining, filling up the room. And take a picture of the ocean for me, please.
Bro, I will. Man, thank you for inviting me on, and thank you for what you're doing for communities and for the world. It really matters.
But Louka, we forgot one thing. Can you tell folks how they can find you? Like how they can learn about your work? Where are the places that they should follow you to learn about what you're doing? Will you share that so that we can make sure we have opportunity for folks to follow you in that way?
Sure. No worries, man. It's a Greek first name and a Welsh last name. So that's it. Louka Parry. Just put that into your search engine, and I think actually wonderfully, Ashanti, it's the only combination of those two names that exist in the world. So you're not going to come across anybody else. But love to connect with anyone that's doing really, really great work in education and beyond.
Fantastic, man. Well, thank you, Louka Parry. So great to have you. Good to see you, and looking forward to connecting with you again.
Absolutely, man.
All right. Cheers.
Keep going.
Cheers, mate. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie. Editing, videography is also by Ryan Louie. Graphics by Kelly Wong. And a special thanks to the team at Ever Forward, Vanessa Cortez and Kevin Romero. And I'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast. As we hit this 1-year anniversary, we hope that everyone who's been a part knows that they're a part of the Taking Off the Mask experience. And we look forward to you being a part of it as well. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and share. And we look forward to us continuing to offer conversations that matter. Take care. See you soon.